The adventurous story begins with an ambulance showing two people transporting an injured woman. Her condition was very critical, and she was taken for an experimental purpose. While the ambulance driver was driving, they reached a forested area. The driver suggested that they should take a different route, as he had remembered some important work. His companion disagreed and said he needed to speak to his supervisor. The driver, growing agitated, shouted that there was no need to ask anyone and that he had important work to do, which he needed to complete quickly. His companion refused to listen, but suddenly, a sharp tentacle appeared from behind and pierced his companion's head, killing him instantly. The driver had no idea what was happening, so he immediately got out and went to check. When he opened the ambulance door, he noticed a child with tentacles emerging from its mouth. It was this child that had killed his companion. Inside the ambulance, there was a woman who was badly injured, but she had just given birth to a baby. The driver, terrified, picked up the baby and rushed to a safe place. The driver knew that the woman he was transporting belonged to an ancient civilization, and her delivery was crucial. He had to get her to a hospital. Unfortunately, after giving birth, the woman died. The driver had no idea who this alien child was. He hid the woman's body and fled with the child. Next, Agent Bain is shown, who was in charge of the case. When he learned about the situation, he came to investigate the forest area. Upon checking, it was revealed that the woman had died, and her child had gone missing. Agent Bain instructed his team to burn the body because it contained alien DNA. If the alien DNA spread, it could cause great trouble. The body of the alien woman was burned, and all evidence was destroyed. A few days later, we see the same driver, now revealed to be a university professor named Dr. Edward. Dr. Edward was an excellent teacher and provided his students with a deep understanding of the subject. He had a wealth of knowledge, but the true story was revealed when he finished his class and was on his way home. Attached to his house was a laboratory containing advanced machines and numerous experimental items. Dr. Edward wasn't just a teacher, he was also a scientist. Inside his laboratory, there was a little girl named Sarah, who was no ordinary child. She was the same girl Dr. Edward had taken from the alien woman, meaning Sarah also carried alien DNA. Dr. Edward had been raising her ever since. Children born with alien DNA grew much faster than normal humans. Despite being only a few days old, Sarah's body appeared like that of a 10-year-old girl. Dr. Edward was conducting research on this and intended to extract the abilities of alien DNA to integrate them into humans. One day, a very old man arrived at Dr. Edward's lab. His condition was extremely poor, and after a while, it was revealed that this man was the same heavyset boy who had killed Dr. Edward's companion in the ambulance. He had grown very quickly, and strange marks appeared on his body. Dr. Edward was puzzled, wondering why this man, despite having alien DNA, was showing such weakness. The man started writhing in pain and eventually collapsed. Holes began appearing in his body, and moments later, he died in agony as large tentacles emerged from his body. This indicated that the man's life cycle, created from alien DNA, had come to an end. Dr. Edward wasn't going to let this opportunity go to waste. He took the body of the alien DNA-grown boy for research and began analyzing every part of it. Dr. Edward soon realized that while alien DNA might be incredibly strong, it still followed a life cycle, reaching its end after a period of maturation. A short while later, one of Dr. Edward's brightest students, Dean, came to him. Dean was excellent in his studies and was working on a solar system project capable of generating unlimited amounts of energy. However, the problem was that he wasn't receiving any funding, which made it impossible for him to continue his project. Whenever Dean had doubts, he would visit Dr. Edward, and this time, Dr. Edward made him an offer. Dr. Edward explained that he wanted to deeply study alien DNA, how it worked, and how it healed itself. He wanted to integrate these properties into humans so that, in the future, humans would never suffer from diseases. Over time, humans and aliens could potentially coexist and form relationships without hesitation, and their offspring would be normal, devoid of aggression, and could help further the advancement of human civilization. After sharing the intent of his project, Dr. Edward asked Dean to become his assistant. In exchange, he promised to fund Dean's solar system project. Dean found this offer appealing, so he agreed to work with Dr. Edward. The two would now help each other complete their respective projects. Dr. Edward began sharing all his experiments with Dean, making him a part of his research. Meanwhile, at Dr. Edward's home, Sarah, the girl with alien DNA, began undergoing changes. She had reached a stage where her body was rapidly growing, and all her physical features were transforming. Slowly, Sarah began changing completely, and her transformation was becoming more evident. Sarah, who was in her developing phase, was inside a cocoon. After a short time, the cocoon broke, and she emerged as a fully grown young woman. At this point, Sarah was unaware of what had happened to her. She quietly went outside to observe her surroundings. During this time, Mike, a senior officer of Dr. Edward, arrived at the house. When he entered, Sarah was standing right in front of him. Sarah tried to seduce Mike, but when she discovered that he had diabetes, she refused to get closer to him. Alien DNA never allows relationships with humans who have diseases. This infuriated Mike, and in his anger, he attempted to force himself on Sarah. Sarah, extremely angry now, transformed into her alien form, revealing her alien tentacles. Using them, she killed Mike by stabbing his body with the tentacles. Afterward, Sarah checked the surrounding area using her alien abilities and discovered that there were others like her who also had alien DNA. This sparked a desire in her to go to them and form relationships. Without wasting time, Sarah left Dr. Edward's house and went far away. When Dr. Edward and Dean returned to the house, they discovered Mike's dead body and also saw the remains of the cocoon from which Sarah had emerged. After reviewing the CCTV footage, Dr. Edward understood everything. He began explaining to Dean that Sarah, the girl with alien DNA, could fully transform into an alien. Sarah had been born months earlier from an alien DNA woman in the ambulance. It was likely that the woman, who had given birth to Sarah, also carried alien DNA. It seemed probable that she had mated with an alien, not a human. Dean then saw the body of the old man who had died with tentacles emerging from his body. These types of individuals were known as hybrid humans, created by the fusion of human and alien DNA. The most dangerous trait of hybrid humans was that, despite having alien DNA, they would die after reaching a maturity period. But these issues couldn't happen with pure alien DNA individuals like Sarah, whose lifespan could range from 400 to 500 years. She was much stronger and could heal the wounds on her body. Dr. Edward wanted to acquire all of these properties and solve the maturity phase problem found in hybrid humans. He also planned to minimize the anger and aggression found in aliens. So, Dr. Edward, along with Dean, focused on their research and began collecting all the information. Meanwhile, Sarah was shown at a party, already starting her mission of finding different humans to form relationships with. However, the problem was that the men she chose all had genetic diseases, which made it impossible for her to connect with them, and she rejected them. Frustrated with finding only sick men, Sarah sat down on a bench. Soon after, a woman named Angela approached her and offered to take her home since it was late. Sarah agreed and got into Angela's car. As they were driving, Sarah immediately sensed another alien nearby. She got out of the car and stood on the railway track, where she was receiving a signal from the train passing by. She began to follow it, but due to the train's speed, she fell and injured her hand. However, being a pure alien with alien DNA, Sarah's hand began to regrow almost immediately. Angela, terrified, witnessed the entire event and quickly drove away in her car. Sarah continued traveling and eventually reached a hotel. There, she saw a man booking a room, and she followed him inside. When she looked at the man, she noticed his eyes glowing red. Meanwhile, her own eyes were blue. Both of them immediately understood that they both had alien DNA, and that connection brought them together. But soon after, Sarah rejected the man because he was ill, and she didn't want to form a relationship with someone who had a disease. This was the reason she turned him down and left to go somewhere else. The man had alien DNA, but he was a half-breed, a combination of human and alien DNA. When such hybrids mature, they eventually die. This was why Sarah rejected him. Sarah then went straight to Dr. Edward's laboratory, which was also her home, where she had started her life. Dr. Edward had already shared all the details with Dean, and now both of them began performing tests on Sarah. While Dr. Edward and Dean kept all the reports related to Sarah's condition, Dr. Edward secretly extracted something from Sarah's body without telling Dean. Suddenly, a dangerous alien, a hybrid, entered the laboratory and began attacking everyone. This hybrid alien had both human and alien DNA. It sensed Sarah's presence and tracked her down. The alien immediately threw Dr. Edward and Dean aside and tried to approach Sarah to form a relationship. However, Sarah didn't want to go near him because hybrid aliens were always sick. She screamed for help, and Dr. Edward attempted to use the weapons he had in the lab to kill the hybrid alien. Together, Dr. Edward and Dean managed to push the hybrid alien away. However, the alien extended its tentacles and used them to stab Dr. Edward in the abdomen. The alien eventually died, but Dr. Edward did not survive the attack. Dean rushed to Dr. Edward, who was lying wounded, trying to help him. As Dr. Edward lay dying, his last words were that Dean must complete his unfinished work. He revealed that he had removed Sarah's ovaries and eggs and stored them in a chamber. This was done because Sarah could no longer bear children. However, Dr. Edward wanted Dean to analyze them and create a partner for Sarah so that, after forming a relationship, they could produce a perfect alien child. Dr. Edward had left all the details in his safe, from where Dean could follow his instructions. Now, it was Dean's responsibility to continue the project. After Dr. Edward's death, Dean was deeply saddened. He burned both the hybrid alien's body and Dr. Edward's body, keeping everything a secret. He continued his experiments in the same laboratory where Dr. Edward had worked. Time passed, but one day, Sarah approached Dean and told him that she had developed feelings for him. However, she wanted to be with a proper alien, not a human. Sarah asked Dean to complete his research and create a partner for her, just as Dr. Edward had envisioned. Dean understood that Sarah and the aliens were using him for their own benefit, so he continued his experiments in secret, away from her knowledge. Meanwhile, a new character, Harry, was introduced. He was Dean's roommate at the hostel and had seen the profile of a medical student named Amelia, who was looking to date someone in the medical field. Harry found Amelia attractive but knew nothing about medicine. So, he submitted some of Dean's research papers related to Sarah to Amelia. After going through the research papers, Amelia realized that Harry was a medical student and that he could help her recover. It was revealed that Amelia was also a hybrid alien, and like the others, she began weakening as her maturity phase approached. Amelia was considering that if she dated a medical student, he might find a way to fix her weakening condition. When she learned that Harry was a medical student, she immediately approached him and tried to get close to him. Not long after, Dean arrived at the hostel and, upon noticing Amelia, recognized her as a hybrid alien due to her DNA. Dean became terrified and hid in another room. However, Amelia quickly sensed the presence of another alien nearby and rushed out to investigate. Her gaze fell upon Sarah, and they both realized that they shared the same alien DNA. Sarah and Amelia teamed up and forced Harry to work in the laboratory to find a solution to their problem. Sarah insisted that Harry use the alien DNA to create a new partner for them, or else they would both kill him. Harry, scared and confused, reluctantly followed their demands, though he had no knowledge of their true nature. Meanwhile, Agent Ben and his team were monitoring Amelia's website and learned through an internal source that Amelia was an alien searching for a cure for her condition. Agent Ben gathered enough information to understand that Amelia was after a new partner to heal her. He went to Dean to inform him that Harry had been kidnapped by the aliens and that they were planning something dangerous. Dean had already suspected something like this but didn't realize how far things had escalated. With this newfound knowledge, Dean, along with Agent Ben's team, rushed to the laboratory where Dr. Edward had conducted his research. Inside the lab, Sarah and Amelia had tied Harry up, but Dean successfully freed him and also took the vial containing the alien DNA and ovaries that Dr. Edward had stored. With the plan in motion, Dean, Agent Ben, and the others headed straight to the solar power plant, where Dean had been working. This entire plan had been devised by Dean and Agent Ben. Their goal was to lure Sarah and Amelia to the power plant by bringing the vial with the alien eggs. Once there, they intended to dispose of Sarah and Amelia by throwing them into the core of the power plant, where they would burn to death. As they arrived at the plant, Sarah and Amelia began transforming into their full alien forms, intent on acquiring the eggs. Dean, holding the vial, made his way to the core of the plant and tossed the vial inside. He believed that by doing so, both Sarah and Amelia would be drawn into the core and burn up, ending the threat. However, Amelia, being a hybrid, did not jump into the core but instead attacked Dean. Despite her alien DNA, she lacked the full powers of an alien. She hoped to use the eggs to create a new alien, but without the full transformation, she could not mate with Dean. On the other hand, Sarah, being a full alien, did not face this limitation. Once fully transformed, she attacked Amelia with ferocity. The two women fought fiercely, each trying to kill the other. Sarah, using her superior strength, overpowered Amelia and threw her into the core, where Amelia perished. Days later, Harry visited Dr. Edward's lab and was shocked to find a child inside. He rushed to Dean, confused and curious. Dean explained to him that using the eggs he had successfully created a partner for Sarah. Although Sarah was an alien, she still needed a partner to live her life. Dean then elaborated on how everything had unfolded and how the new partner would help Sarah. Harry, though still uncertain, agreed to the plan, understanding the situation and Dean's reasoning. This conclusion marks the end of a thrilling and adventurous tale. After several months, the alien child created from Sarah's eggs had fully grown and was now Sarah's new alien boyfriend. They were ready to begin a new chapter of their lives together, as Dean and Harry came to bid them farewell. During their interaction, Dean asked Sarah why she had spared his life the last time instead of killing him when she had the chance. Sarah didn't respond verbally but only smiled, hinting that she may have developed feelings for him. As Sarah and her alien boyfriend smiled and set off on their long journey, Harry felt a sense of contentment and even praised Dean. However, one lingering question remained in Harry's mind: if these two aliens could produce offspring, it could potentially affect the human population. But Dean reassured him that Sarah only needed a partner. While Sarah's new alien boyfriend could have a physical relationship with her, he lacked the capability to produce more alien children, making the situation no cause for concern. And so, the adventure came to an end.